South Coast Swish.
You are either all the way in or you are all the way out. And there is no in between.
Like, if the South got something to say, that's all I got to say.
Guys, hey Hoops fans, how y'all doing? Chris Dodson with SouthCoast Swish coming in with a guy I met out in Vegas. I was doing something for some league. He was doing something for some league. I still can't believe they kicked us out of that club at 2 a.m.
I know.
But hey, that's how it is. We probably need to get to work anyway. Everybody, we've got Akil Reese in the building. Say hello. Tell the people where they can find you on social media, things like that to start.
Okay. Instagram, you can find me at AKO__. Same thing with Twitter. Akil Reese, thanking Chris for having me on. I'm a young coach coming up in the game right now, just kind of getting my feet wet, and just looking forward to kind of sharing my experience so far.
Right, and I've been doing a lot of trying to expose young coaches, young players, getting into scouting. That's why I was out there at Summer League.
Right.
Tell the people about your experience, because you was messing with a team. The SouthCoast Swish is hoops from Houston to Hot-lanta, Beale Street to Biscayne Bay. We hit that block. But
Right.
you was down doing some work with some teams, right?
Yes. So yeah, the last few years and this past Summer League, I've been working with the Pelicans, which has been great. Great organization, great people, very personable. They care a lot. So I've been able to just learn a lot within those, 10 days of Summer League. It's not a lot, but it is, in a sense of how much you can kind of absorb, as a young coach, and kind of just adding terminology offensively, defensively, and building relationships. I think that's what I've always been great at, even when I played, just being able to connect with anybody from anywhere. So really trying to, get my feet wet, be a sponge, and then also, putting myself out there, knowing that, I've played at a pretty good level, and getting to this point now, I can also share my own knowledge from my own experiences.
Right. I was going to get to your playing days, but we've met again at Summer League. It's like the
Right.
mecca of basketball. You have
Yeah.
to be there for the connections, the networking. And if you're not out there just talking with people, what are you doing? That's how we met. That's just how you got to go about it. But
Yeah. Yeah, 'cause I'm telling
basketball being basketball, that brings people together. I was going to say, what brought you to the game first? What was your first love, the first time you hit that court? That's where we're going with it first.
Man, it's deep. Like, I feel like, from playing video games when I was little, I know I used to watch Dwayne Wade a lot growing up. And I tried to kind of, copy what he was doing with the one long sock type of thing when he was young in Miami. And I think from there, I joined a park and rec league. My mom put me into that. And I kind of, from there, just kind of found myself within basketball. And it's kind of allowed me to grow to, who I am today. But I would say I started with video games and park and rec.
Okay. Some people use it as an escape. Some people use it as a bond. You was in there with the video games and just
Yeah.
kind of, hey, this looks fun.
Yeah.
Then you got into the fashion. So I got to ask you there then. Kobe's or Jordan's? Not playing, the kicks. The kicks.
You know what? I'm not a big Jordan guy. Like, I've had a few ones throughout.
Everybody's had some ones.
Everybody's had some ones, right? But Kobe's, like Westchester, I played at Westchester, which I currently have coached at the last few years. We used to get Kobe's every year, like our own PEs. So I got to go with Kobe's, and I wear Kobe's to this day.
Right, and you out there in Cali, you played out there on the West Coast. You want to tell the people about your journey there and how you broke in those Kobe's?
Yeah, so getting done with middle school basketball, that transition to high school basketball, is very important in the type of program you're going to go into to be able to, make that transition to college seamless, whether that's a scholarship or not. So my journey was kind of figuring out, all right, am I going to go to a private school? Am I going to go to a public school? Westchester ended up being the best place for me, and I had tons of adversity there getting there, and it's a historical high school program that had won a lot, playing for Coaches and with high expectations. So getting there, it kind of showed me like, hey, you got to step it up a little bit if you really want to do this. Because guys in there are hungry, and coach, he played my sophomore year. We played 5 in, 5 out. One guy messed up, the whole group coming out. So just kind of learning and growing through that, it benefited me a lot. And getting to my junior year where I got a lot more opportunity. And unfortunately, I tore my ACL after my junior year going into my senior year. But it all prepared me for, who I am today. So, everything happens for a reason, and I don't like to look back and be like, oh, I wish I would have. But Westchester definitely molded me a lot, and Coach Zen was a great coach, and Coach DeWitt as well.
Right. Looking back, it didn't really help nobody. Unless you want to say, what would you tell younger you right now? Maybe somebody that's playing and, maybe they going to wind up going into coaching, something like that. What would you want to throw at
Man,
them?
I would say
Would you
just
wish you knew?
yeah, what I wish I knew was more so, I would say, on the side of keeping the body strong and, really doing the things, sleep schedule. Like, kids these days have so much access to recovery.
Yeah.
So I wasn't really educated enough on the recovery wise. I just knew ball is life, right? That's what they were teaching. Ball is life. Be in the gym all hours, put the work in, get the reps in. And that's how I kind of approached the game. So, being that I messed my knee up, I mean, maybe I was overplaying, looking back at it. So I would say, work smart. You know what I'm saying? Be in the gym, get the good reps in, and that's the big thing. Like when you are in the gym, whether it's an hour, if you're intentional about the work, that's all you really need. A couple hours throughout the day. You don't need to be in the gym 5, 6 hours out the day to get some good work in. So I would just tell myself to, really look into the recovery part of it to really take care of my body.
Right. And that goes quality over quantity. You can sit in
Yeah.
there all hours and do terrible damage to your knees if you're not doing it right.
Yes.
Uh, how do you apply that now to what you
Mhm.
want to do, coaching, where you're going to go from here, maybe being on an NBA bench very soon?
Right. The way I apply it, my mom's actually in sports recovery, right? And even when it was like peak COVID, or a little bit after COVID, I got into kind of sports performance for a little bit, and it kind of like opened my eyes. Trying to learn a lot within that, and then apply it to the people that were my clients at the time. Then I got into player development, and then being able to really preach, taking care of your body, doing some of those things, whether that's getting a massage, icing up, whatever that looks like for each individual and what they need. It's big, especially if you're trying to play, professional basketball. Your body has to last, in order for your career to last. So I think that's the way I look at it. And
Right. And people want to play pro. We know the percentages, 10% of this goes to college, 1% of that goes pro.
yes,
A lot of it is exposure. I'm learning now that I've come to summer league, been talking to some coaches, did a thing with Mal Mundy and Coach Micah and Coach AJ at Xavier. And I'm
right.
learning some of these kids and the parents, they're just not sure how going about it. How do you think that needs to change? Is there something you'd like to see implemented? Maybe what's your thoughts on how that could get better?
As far as like exposure,
Yeah, exposure for kids that would help them and coaches.
exposure for kids that would help. You said young coaches.
Yeah, yeah, just any coaches trying to get, you know, uh, college pro. There's still going to be exposure problems in college, because there's some of these small schools like Xavier, they've put kids overseas,
Right.
but you've just got to find people that can actually come in and do the work to get them exposed. That's
Yeah.
the same for high schoolers and their parents. Kid, people
Hmm.
went underrated, but getting into college, and now they're playing professional. Duncan Robinson.
Yes, yes. I think the big thing about exposure, it's kind of crazy nowadays. Like with social media, it's hard to miss anything, but at the same time, there are those hidden gems that get overlooked within it because it's politics within this basketball stuff a little bit. It's kind of who can put you in that position. So
Who
as far
knows you?
Right. So as far as exposure, all I can really say is, from the high school level getting to college, just kind of be intentional about the work, like I've been saying. And when you find yourself looking for an AAU team, make sure you're on an AAU team where you're going to get a lot of opportunity, like a lot of opportunity to make mistakes, but also, a coach that's going to have your back and speak on your behalf, in order for you to get recruited. But also players got to do their part. So as long as players are doing your part and you do your part to find a good situation for you and a good coach that's going to look out for you, I find it hard sometimes to, be overlooked in this climate of social media and stuff like that. And then as far as college athletes, it's the same thing. Obviously, you have your blue bloods, your high major Division 1s, your Division 2s, and the same thing nowadays with this transfer portal is a lot of these Division 2 NAIA kids are getting a lot of exposure because coaches want older guys who can perform. It's like, all right, rather than going to go get this high school kid, let me look at who had a lot of success at the Division II level and who could help me now. Who's probably stronger, quicker, understands the game a little bit better, understands like, coaches at the college level, their livelihood is on the line, so they have to win games. So it's who can they bring in right away to contribute that, rather than who can I develop within these next however many years to get me to that point. So I think everybody's scenario is different. It's different. That's the beauty of basketball.
Yeah, if you hooping, they gonna find you. You just got to keep going. You got to keep grinding about it. But you see some of it, these kids 17, 18 trying to get a spot. They got transfers that have got 4 playing years, 7 college years, a
Yeah.
COVID year. Literally, it's football, but I think LSU's got a guy going on a 7th, 8th year, Stetson Bennett at Georgia. Like, it's happening in basketball too a little bit, because these
Yeah.
coaches have to keep their jobs.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate. I think this is the last year of the kids who had extra years, so I think things will kind of be normal again going forward in some sense. But yeah, like you said, if you can play and you're about the right things, that the school for you will find you.
Right. So looking at all that, you getting into coaching now, you playing days. I've had my surgeries, you've had
Yeah.
yours. Uh, what's a first practice look like? You focusing on culture, cardio, getting a playbook in. What's your first day? We're just meeting a new team. You just got hired. You start in 2 weeks.
That's a great question. That's great. I have to instill the culture, because without the culture, we have nothing. Especially if I have a new team, I'm a new coach coming in, unfamiliar with what was instilled into these guys previously. It's my turn to kind of get my staff together and instill whatever my approach may be. So I think culture is big, and then you kind of discipline the guys in a sense of what you can and cannot do, and then you allow freedom to come gradually from that. But yeah, without the culture and without the discipline, you have nothing within your program.
Right. And the discipline, I guess, can come from, all right, I want to trust you to have done the work on the
Yes.
line. Let's start running. Let's see who
Yeah.
didn't do the work.
Exactly.
Now we got a culture getting built. That
Mhm.
sort of thing. A lot of it, I see coaches all talk about it a little bit. I've never seen you coach, but
Yeah.
there's both ends in the spectrum. Some of them will talk about it, but don't know how to implement it. And
Yeah.
translating that to the trust with the players seems to be the biggest issue. You've seen it, Willie Green right here in New Orleans. You don't need the X's and O's, because
Right.
you can have all that. If they don't trust you, you'll be fired. You're gone.
Yeah, he's a great players coach. Like Willie Green, from my experiences that I had with him being in the gym, it's nothing but great things. Like I seen the guy come in and he'll grab the broom and sweep the floor if it's not right. Yeah, like he did that in Vegas. I saw him step in between the lines and guard a few guys in between the individual workouts. So that means a ton, especially for these guys coming up now. Like you see your coach get in between the lines and see that he's capable of doing the same things that he's preaching. That means a ton, and it looks different at every level as far as the discipline part. Obviously the NBA, these guys making tons of money, the way you may hold them accountable is going to be different from the college, and then the same thing for the high school level. But like you said, like if you can walk the part and be the part, it means a ton for these players to see that.
Right, right. And what has it meant to you going from college to professional? Like, have you seen the gap? How would you explain how someone could maybe prepare for, the obvious gap there in talent, professionalism, what's expected?
Yeah, I've seen it. Like I've worked with Rise Agency the last couple of years with their player development and pre-draft stuff, and you see it's just that approach coming in and being a pro and being. I think my favorite words right now is intentional. Being intentional about the work, and that just means being not just on time, being early, getting your body right, getting your mind right, and then knowing that every rep matters. Like we're trying to build great habits here, so every rep matters. And as soon as players, learn that, the longer their career will last, and those great things will happen for them. So just that transition from college, and the game's a lot different, obviously, as far as spacing and you buying into a role. You might have been the second best player in your college team, but now you got to buy into a role at the NBA level, and just finding that what you're good at and sticking to that, and really flourishing. And then when you get in the summer, kind of adding a little bit here and there to that, but really sticking to what you're good at and being intentional about the work.
Right, right. And right now, the work is showing up because the game is getting spaced out so much. you talk about changing the game. I think they're going to call the 4-point line the Curry curve.
Yeah.
There's no other thing you can call it at this point. That's the only reason it's going to exist is because Curry's out there. How have you seen that game change from when you started playing to now? You know, what you learned and what coaches told you, that doesn't necessarily transfer now. You've actually got to start coming up with your own ideas, implementing it, and having fun building your own playbook, I guess, because, you know, drawing them little
Yeah.
plays up can get fun.
Yeah, like I think people are going away from just like set plays. I think a lot of offense nowadays is like our principles and being able to read the defense and react, reading the defender's feet, eyes, and taking things from there. I mean, obviously a lot of stuff in the NBA is isolation, ball screen oriented, pin downs, and stuff like that. Because you got some of the best players in the world and they're able to make those reads. So I think that's the biggest thing. And analytically, you know, everybody's leaning towards shooting a lot of threes. And I think I have my, I'm like, oh, I'm okay with that in the sense of some teams, I think they're shooting too many threes just because of analytically it makes sense. But you got teams like the Warriors, obviously, who have two of the greatest shooters in the world, rightfully so. You should be shooting probably a lot more threes than the next team. But I don't think it should be across the board in the NBA where teams are just really like volume, 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 shoot a lot of threes, shoot a lot of threes. And I think that's what's kind of hurt the game a little bit. But I mean, this is one of the most talented leagues now, you know, as far as from top to bottom. A lot of these young guys coming in now are very talented. So the league is in great hands with that.
Yeah, I truly believe NFL included, NBA, they are the best, not because they're an American, we have the most money and all the just corporate
Right.
capitalism that goes into it. But in Europe, all the best players are spread out through all those countries. All the top teams have top teams. If you want a hoop planet, there's only one league to go. You don't have to pick between England, France, and Germany. If you're there, you're still trying to get on here. And that's
Yes.
why a Pelicans player, GT, is all like, I don't want to be retired by a retired player. Like,
Mhm.
he didn't want somebody that's been out the game, a boogie cut. Don't get retired by somebody who's already been replaced out the game. At least get
Right.
replaced by a young blood,
No,
because
for
it's brutal out there for, you know, roster spots.
Yeah, no, it is. And you see guys like, you know, like the John Walls and the Kimball Walkers, like, you know, they're heading overseas, right? So, and you know, overseas is still a beautiful game. I watch a lot of, you know, film from overseas, whether just to get some play calling and see what they're doing, because it's still a beautiful game over there. They have talented guys like we spoke of. So yeah, like you said, you got these young guys coming in. It's kind of weeding out some of these, you know, good guys. They're still very talented players, but they're older. They're kind of weeding them out now, and they're having to head to EuroLeague.
Yeah, it's a young man's game. Coaching, you can, you know, go until your 50s, 60s, 70s. We're already going on 20 minutes here. Uh, where do you want to take the game? What do you got lined up? Let the people know a little bit about that. We'll get a couple more questions out of here, and then
Okay, cool.
hopefully see you back in New Orleans in a few weeks.
Yeah. For me, I want to, you know, I want to be a part of the NBA brand. I know me growing up, it was always about, oh, I want to play, I want to play, I want to play. And where I'm at now today, being able to have an opportunity to potentially coach and get in the video room and player development with the NBA just means so much to me. So that's ultimately where I want to see myself. I'll get my feet wet in there and kind of learn and grow from there, and then try to, you know, work my way up just like anything. But that's where I'm at with it. Right now, I think I bring to the table, like I said, I can build relationships, you know, seamlessly. And the player development and video part of it for me is something I've been doing for the last few years. So I know the NBA game is a lot different from, you know, where I've been coaching as far as high school, but I've been able to have guys like Trevor Ariza, Brandon Heath, and they really instill Pooh Jeter. Like, he really instill a lot of different things into me. So I'm kind of fortunate to have, you know, the circle that I have also to be able to learn while continuing to grow in this game and in coaching.
Gotcha, man. That's a great thing to end on right there. Tell us what you're listening to, maybe in the gym. Other than that, we could talk all that kind of shop. But if you got
Yeah.
somebody you want to throw out, go ahead.
Who I'm listening to?
Do you run the jukebox and do you run the music in the gym, or
Yeah, I'm on the
you
ox.
know, there's people that run the music and people that sit back. Which one?
Uh,
Which one of them? What?
I think I'm a little bit of both. I'm more so on the ox though. It depends. Like if I'm in the gym with the kids, I usually let them turn on whatever they want to turn on. But I mean, who doesn't like Drake? I'm playing Drake. I'm a big Kendrick fan. You know, growing up, that was my guy. That was my favorite artist coming up. Who else? I can't even. Blue Bucks, like it's a LA thing as far as artists. They're young dudes. So it really depends on the vibe in the day. I'll throw on some old school music too.
South Coast Swish.
All right, so Olin Simplest, big with me as far as skill development. Renee Johnson, Olin Simplest at the guard whisper. Renee Johnson's Go Athletics, two guys who really helped me as far as from a skill development point, heading into my school years. And all my college coaches, have been that foundational piece, me molding myself into a young man, starting with Jim Shaw. He's at Washington State now. He coached me at Western Oregon. Perry Webster. He coached me at Fullerton College, and where I graduated from, Cal State Monterey Bay, Isaac Williams. Those three guys, were huge, and just not only a basketball and coaching standpoint, but just giving me some guidance as far as being a young man growing up. So I want to shout out those guys, and don't let me forget Lionel Benjamin. Big shout out to him. He's been with me since I was a youngin' and really helped me get through high school, college, and even today still contributes a lot.
Right. You got to keep that in alignment. It's not just the X and the O's. It's growing up, bringing a young man along so they doing something like yourself. You talk to Coach, though, about realignment. Washington State might get left behind. That's going to hurt a little bit. That's something. That's something.
I know. It's going to be crazy.
That's another challenge that builds character. But, man, appreciate you helping me build the podcast up like this, doing things. It's been South Coast Swish, Chris Dodson, Akil Reese. Again, thanks again, brother.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me anytime.
South Coast Swish.
You were either all the way in or you were all the way out. And there is no in between.
Like, it's the South got something to say. That's all I got to say.